This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Ahoy! Captain David Gallimore welcomes you aboard the Regenerate Show, live Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com. We dive into the real messy work of transforming our lives, leadership, and organizations. Bring your hot mess and confusion. Leave with clarity, courage, and confidence. Together, let's strengthen our resilience, accelerating the health of ourselves, people, planet, and profits. Now, here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard! Your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator.
Oh my goodness, that was so fun. Apparently, Angela, I had two tabs open, so shame on me. So welcome. I am so glad you're here. This is episode 10, and I'm really, really thrilled that our theme today is going to be Breakout of the Simulation. My guest is Angela Sharpe. She's a business and tech project and program manager. Turns out, I just learned that she's an elder of the Cherokee Nation, and we're going to be talking about youth and the crisis that youth are experiencing in our country as well as around the globe. Angela is also a media host on Talk4 Media. She has a really fascinating, eclectic show on business, on parenting, on social concerns, on how to live a flourishing life, called A Sharpe Outlook. So I invite you to check that out. So we're going to be discussing two important but not easy questions related to the declining mental health, lack of personal agency at some times for folks, disconnects from community, and burnout, which I faced a couple of years ago, and other challenges that our young people are experiencing from middle school to high school to early adulthood in their 20s and 30s. And it's impacting so many families and communities across our great nation and around the globe. So I look forward to inviting now, please, Angela Sharpe to the Regenerate Show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And thank you for that introduction. And yes, let's chat about that problem.
I really appreciate our opportunity to chat, because you bring, obviously, a woman's perspective to this. You bring a Native, Indigenous perspective to this. As a older white guy, colonialist, not by intention, but by history, I have learned so much about the power and the wisdom from Indigenous people. My own wife, we've been married now 35 years. She is an elder recently of the Tlingit Nation in Southeast Alaska. Mm-hmm. So I think we as elders have a unique opportunity during this challenging time globally to provide perspective and maybe limited advice, because nobody, when they're younger, really wants to get advice from us. But I'm wanting to just start our show with what is that one thing, Angela, that you just love, that lights you up, just to help our listeners get to know you just a little bit?
Well, one of the things that really excites me is transferring information. As you mentioned, being an elder, it becomes a responsibility to pass wisdom on to the next generation. So when I get an opportunity to share information with one of our, youth, our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, that helps them go after and achieve their goals, it makes me feel like my life was not in vain. I really feel like changing lives is very important to me, or at least bringing something that helps someone make the decision to regenerate and renew and revitalize their lives, from maybe a traumatic situation that has occurred in their life. Yeah.
That so inspires me. It gives me chills when I think about how uh, that spirit of paying it forward without
Mhm.
any transaction or wanting something in return. It's just
Right.
conditional love, like we were talking about before the show.
Mhm.
Relationship with our dogs is that kind of relationship, and so often with between humans, we don't do that because there's this, I don't know, need to get something in return or a transaction. So good.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about your origin story. This is not your bio, but um, how have you become who have you before you are a financial program manager and project manager, before many of the CFO, VP, director of finance functions that you've led, before becoming your media host?
Yeah.
What's your origin story, Angela?
I've had a very interesting journey. Um, I had children right from I was married and had children right after high school. The marriage did not work out, and so I was a single parent. And one of the things that I had decided at that time, I said, I'm not going to get caught up in a system that puts you in kind of like uh, chains where you can't get out. And so I said, I'm going to go to school. I'm going to get education. I'm going to get whatever it takes that I need to make sure that I'm not caught in a system that does not help you to move on. You end up becoming stagnant. And so from there, I, I worked during the day, I went to school at night. My neighbor watched my kids, and it was challenging. It was very challenging. We didn't have much, but whatever I had, I learned how to work with what was available. In fact, I ended up opening a restaurant at one point in time in my life, um, to provide healthy food. But from that journey, what I learned was you have to focus your mind. You have to decide, I'm not what others say. Their opinions are not what guides me. It's what's inside my spirit that guides me. And it's what I have decided, my hopes, my dreams, and I even said my purpose is to do these specific things. And from there, I went to school, I started working at major corporations, were my first jobs, Fortune 10 companies. And I learned so many wonderful things there, and then some things not so good. But I learned what a well oiled machine looks like. I learned what good processes look like. I learned what regulations and policies and procedures and audits and everything else. I learned that it's an organism and it's controlled by different systems and how you build all those systems to make things work well. And from there, I de- decided to become a consultant instead of an employee because I needed more freedom to be able to express myself and to be authentic and to, when I find something, I say something and not having that fear, oh gosh, if I say something, I may not have a job. I ended that. I made sure that I determined where I worked, when I worked, how long I would work, and never would I ever be in a situation where I cannot be authentic and tell the truth. So that journey has taken me all the way to here I am now. And I started out in finance. My degree was in, you know, business, business, and my major was accounting. But I also started at the time where the first computer was coming. And so, and if you wanted to keep your job, you had to learn how to write software. So I learned on the job how to write software, and then I took some classes, and that was so fascinating because I just like making things and creating things, and I was able to create and make things happen with software, and it was so fascinating to me. And I'm appreciative of all those mentors that were there sharing more information than my job required, so that I learned what their jobs were. I learned about the management. I learned about some of the challenges, and one of the things is I also learned that everyone doesn't have that same freedom. I had to decide to free myself so that I could make the choices that were right. And now I go out and work as a fraction or finance person or a software engineer on a project basis. And when that project is over, I'm then gone, and I have a lot of information because I've worked a long time. And so I share it on the podcast because I see that this generation is maybe struggling more than what it should because it doesn't have all of that basic information. I've worked in like 15 to 20 different industries. So a lot of information. What am I supposed to do with that? I can't just like keep it to myself. I need to share that and mentor the next generation of accountants, the next generation of CFOs and controllers, the next generation of software engineers, the next generation of project managers, the next generation of analysts, because they need that basic information to be successful. And I want to be there to help if I can. Yep.
Oh, yeah, it just warms my heart. So two things that I'd love to just pull a couple threads from your origin story is very similarly, I realized that being an employee, it has a lot of risk in
Mm-hmm.
speaking to power. And like you chose to move into a contracting role. As the sole provider, it also paid a lot better.
Yes.
Although, as you know, sometimes projects end early or they,
Mm-hmm.
there's a gap. So my lovely wife, Margaret, has had to endure a lot of ups and downs of family finances. But I don't know that I would, knowing what I know now, I don't know that I would trade that for full
Mm-hmm.
time employment again because there is something deep inside you, I suspect. I know it's deep inside me to speak truth.
Yes.
And sometimes the politics, especially in larger organizations,
Mm-hmm.
so fraught, isn't it?
You bet.
And
And
and then the other thread that I just love to acknowledge is I think you and I share this common value of lifelong learning.
yes.
You mentioned before we started our live show that you've had a number of transformations and identity shifts. We're both kind of mutts in that way, in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and you have this just deep, you know, purpose and meaning to share what you've learned, both the good and I suspect the bad, maybe even the.
Mhm. Yes,
Um,
even the ugly. Yes,
and
yes.
I don't know if it's even remotely like what it was for you and I, but when I left college to join IBM, my training program, my onboarding program, Angela, was 18 months. Can you imagine? 18 months before I mean, I was doing assistant work as a systems engineer and I'd have my little projects, but they didn't feel I was fully ready to take on, the responsibilities of that job until a very extensive training program. Did you have a similar experience with that Big Ten firm?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely had a lot of time of learning and being able to understand. And I enjoyed, the training and the prep work, like I said, because I had a lot of information that was being thrown at me. When the bigger the corporation, the more that you had to be responsible for, and the more you had to know, and to know a company from beginning to end is really valuable and it's vital these days. Especially, I think about it when they're moving to AI, but I feel just from some of the things that I'm running into when I'm going on sites, um, there's something missing in the development phase, and it is the foundational information. And you
Yeah.
don't know it because you have not experienced all the different structures of an organization or the different industry of those organizations. Like I say, I've been in multiple industries, um, and but I enjoy learning. I'm always learning. I can't just sit back and not learn. I want to know. I want to learn because I want to share. And it's like, guess what I learned, And but the biggest thing, I'll
Does
just have
that
to
irritate
tell some
your
of the.
family
Oh,
and friends as
mhm.
much as it does my family and friends? Sorry to interrupt. Does wanting to share irritate your family and friends as much as it irritates my family and friends?
Oh yeah.
So, we're trying to fill a void, I think,
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
many of us who are elders, because there isn't the 18-month training programs anymore.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And generative AI is, by all accounts, replacing a lot of the entry level um, office, computer related work.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
where are the next generation? Where are the young people going to be able to learn about situational leadership or SWOT or some of the
Right.
things I listened to on your radio show earlier today? I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
I think they have to learn it from um, elders and people that are willing to share
Right.
what
Right.
is not necessarily always the formula, but purpose of this radio show is the messy middle,
Mhm.
uh, nuances of how things, you know, really do work.
Yeah.
So those are the two threads that I wanted to pull. I love your origin story. I knew we were kindred spirits, and you've just
Yes. Yes.
so
Absolutely.
maybe before we take our commercial break in about 10 minutes or so, um, I kind of quickly passed over what we're talking about in the intro, and I
Mhm.
want to deep dive into that with you. So, as you and I discussed a couple weeks ago, we're both growing increasingly concerned about the state of our young adults,
Yes.
and so I'm thinking, late teens to early 30s, that age range, maybe.
Mhm.
There's certainly um, Gen Z, and then the alphas that are right now probably late teens coming into their 20s. And by all accounts, and I'll put in the show notes some pretty horrendous happiness report information from Gallup that are the happiness is in decline uh,
Mhm.
in, in U.S. and Western countries. Interestingly, it's on the rise in a lot of the other countries around the globe.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily a youth across the globe issue, but it's a youth in the Western Europe and the US, Canada, North America.
Right.
But
Right.
but the adults are feeling powerless and disconnected and often psychologically unsafe. And I have an adult son, Ian, and an
Mhm.
adult daughter, Catherine. And I know that they get really bummed. I mean, sometimes even depressed with all of the social media and the news that's happening. So when we talk about breaking out of the simulation, what we mean by that is many young people start their day picking up their smartphone and plugging in to the matrix. And between work and school and just their personal lives, they're often spending so much of their time on screens and in these virtual worlds. Um, we know that geopolitical tensions are certainly exacerbated. Bad news sells better than good news.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
Declining affordability and concerns about, can I even buy a home? Where our generation, my wife and I needed uh, a loan from my mom and dad to get into our first home, but
Hmm.
people don't have access to that kind of help, family help. And then we know that the generative AI is definitely taking jobs, especially the entry level jobs. And then
Hmm.
started the Regenerate show, which is to help level up people and businesses and use business as a leverage, as a lever to improve the health of people and planet and profit to
Hmm.
mitigate this threat of climate change that, at least in the Seattle area, we're having, I think, only a third of the rainfall and snowpack that we've had to
Right.
date. So we're going to have another horrendous fire season. So
Hmm.
let's let's talk now about your views, maybe a story, an anecdote that you have of a young person that you know. Feel free to make that anonymous. But you seeing in your world?
Well, what I'm seeing is, well, I see a lot of frustration, and even, I don't want to say a disappointment also, because
Yeah,
like you said, the jobs that were plentiful as we were, working through our careers, they're not so plentiful. And then some of the, entry level positions are going to be replaced with AI. And so now what do? It's wonderful. I believe in evolution of new ideas and new equipment and new systems and different things like that. But what is disappointing to me is the fact I just had a podcast talking about business process management. Well, you're supposed to be planning for the introduction of these new uh, AI systems that are going to be taking place. If you knew that this was happening, of course, you were planning on it, especially these larger companies who are benefiting um, financially from these systems. You knew that they would be replacing. Where was your conversations? And why haven't we not seen these conversations of what the youth would be doing when these replacements would be coming? Yes, they're lower level, but there's still analytics that need to be done. That if the development is not designed in the AI, you're not going to get the outcome. So I'm here to tell you right now, because I was there when the first system started being built, and here we are today. And there is a lot of processing, a lot of information, and all it's not a one size fits all. Industries are different. Even even the software platforms are different, because the platform it was designed for a specific industry. And so all of them have their own different systems that they use because of the idiosyncrasies between different industries. Everyone's acting like, oh, all you need to do is just get this one AI system and it's going to solve all. Where have you been? Is your head in the sand? You cannot possibly be thinking that is reality. There are jobs that are available, even with AI. Someone just does not want to either think about it, or they don't know how to think about it. But Captain Dave, we are here with knowledge to help them start thinking about it, because there are areas that need to be addressed. And so when I talk to young people and they're talking about, well, gosh, look what's happening and look at what's all going on. And you older people have caused these problems and this, that, and the other. Yeah, we didn't plan well. And some of us were not in the positions that we could have gotten the voice to say, this is what we need to be planning. But here I'm saying, if you're going to this specific door, then, and that door is closed, you have to be like I was. Reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
Reimagine yourself in a totally different industry, a totally different place of work, a totally different idea. Take some courses. I'm even talking about
So,
skills training, because we don't have that anymore.
yeah,
Mhm.
Angela, if I can just pause you just for a second there. Uh, let's go to a commercial break
Mhm.
uh, with this important message, and when we come back, let's pick up. If you were in your late teens and early 20s, what are some of the things that could really help you, you
Mhm.
know, lower the anxiety
Right.
and the feelings of helplessness. Let's pick this up in very concrete terms.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thank you for listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave on K4HD Radio. We invite you to give yourself grace and embrace the messy middle. See you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, you got this. You're listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave, your personal regenerator on K4HD Radio. We'll be right back. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you ready to regenerate and live the life of your dreams? Start the transformation now. Call Captain Dave at 253-237-2558. Stop overthinking. Again, call 253-237-2558 or go to regenerativeworldgroup.com to book a free, no-obligation clarity call. Let's get back to Regenerate right here on K4HD Radio for more life-changing transformations. Here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator.
Welcome back. So if you're just now joining us, I've been speaking with Angela Sharpe, a seasoned accounting and finance professional with over 40 years of experience in senior management, ERP systems, internal audit, internal controls, compliance, reporting, and training. She's also a fellow Talk 4 Media host of her own show called A Sharpe Outlook. I love the play on words, by the way, Angela. And it's Mondays at 8 a.m., as well as on your favorite podcasts a few days later. So there she, on her show, she shares practical information, best practices based on her life experience. As we learned in the first half of this show, she loves learning, and more importantly, loves sharing learning, being an elder of the Cherokee Nation, and just one of those souls that loves to pay it forward to others. We've been discussing the growing young adult challenges we're experiencing within our own families, and also, reading and hearing stories from those around the globe. So welcome, Angela, to part 2 of the Regeneration Show, where we kind of delve into maybe a tool or an approach that you have found to be successful, and I would be delighted to kick it off with, if I had known my core values, OMG, I would be in a different place in my life. I left college trying to maximize income and title and just the prestige that one gets from different kinds of work. So I chose consulting, management consulting, and working for, at that time in the 80s, IBM, one of the top corporations in tech. But when I learned that my core values, which are love, and that is an uber value of family and community, world peace, empathy, compassion, um, adventure. I used to have challenge as a core value, but I was attracting far too many problems. So I pivoted to the word adventure and far fewer problems and way more exploration and fun. And then I have a kind of a combo core value of um, design build. So I love the ideas. I think you do as well. But then seeing them realized in the real world gives me such joy, that whole arc. Um, and then leadership, because everything that we create begins with an idea and then it takes leadership. I define
Mhm.
leadership as influence, not necessarily position power like the title that we hold, but persuasive influence. And then finally, impact. So, like you, wanting to make a difference in the world, create that legacy that we can look on our deathbed and say that we made a difference with
Yes.
that
Yes.
generation of folks. If I had known those 6 words and what they mean, my definition of success, what does a good day look like? I can use it as a criteria to check things off. Do I want to say yes to this thing that has been offered me, or do I want to spend money on this experience? I use the core values as a way to check those. And if it doesn't check the boxes, I easy
Mhm.
no. Neurodiverse ADHD person, it's so much easier to say no when something doesn't fit my core values. So that's my big uh, you know tool and approach for young people that may be really struggling. How about you? What would be your number one approach or tool to help young people?
Right now, a lot of young people, they see so much um, inauthentic conversations, a lot of stuff, a whole lot of just, how should I say this, stuff that's not actually the truth, that is just blowing up our media, our communications, the airwaves, and different things like that. And nobody can imagine how bad that is when you have young people feel like they can't trust anything that they read anymore because there's so much garbage out there. And so, what I usually tell them, long as you have truth in you, you will always be able to find truth in every place else. The stuff that is not true, the stuff that's not accurate, the stuff that's all there for the hype and the drama and the clicks, you don't have to let that into your space. You
Mhm.
get to control your space, your eyes, your ears, what goes in them. You get to control that. If it crosses your line of authenticity, you don't watch it. Don't let it get into your ears. Don't let it get into your spirit because it will end up causing you to think thoughts that never would have been there. When you're authentic, you are looking at yourself and analyzing, where does the truth lie in me? Am I being authentic enough to say, I'm not really good at this? So I have two choices. I'm going to go and qualify myself with more education. I'm going to go and work under a mentor to build my confidence. I'm going to go and talk to someone else who might have some trauma that you need to deal with and confront, someone you need to talk to to confront that so that you can actually be whole and complete and you're not hanging on to baggage that's holding you back. Then you be authentic. If one door is closed and it's not opening for you, there are millions of other doors. Be able to reimagine yourself doing something else. But I would probably say, first off, look and see what are the trends. What is actually growing and what is actually falling apart. And if you're going to approach the ideas that are falling apart, the organizations that are struggling and can't find their way, if you think you have solutions, and I'll tell you, it's really fun trying to go in and identify where the problems are and actually helping organizations turn around. It is such a charge you get. I mean, I get so thrilled. Man, it was rough, it was tough, it was hard, it was difficult, but look at the results. They're on their feet now. They've been able to turn themselves around. They're actually on the path of success.
Yeah.
Just being able to use those talents, because industries out there are not perfect. Companies are not perfect. The processes are not perfect. The people working there, many of them are just struggling through the day, but they're living a fake life. They're not authentic. They're not honest with themselves. And they really, some of them don't even want to be there. Then reinvent what you're doing. Find the door that fits you and go through it. You spend too many hours on a job not to love what you do. You're
So
supposed to love what you do if you invest that kind of energy and time.
So I love what you're saying. You know, two things really quickly. Again, um, being more self-aware of how much the channels that we have in our lives, email, text, social media, etc., they're really driven by the corporations that are trying to keep our eyes attached and the stickiness so that they can
Hmm.
sell advertising and monetize our data. So
Yes.
to take back agency, um, personal agency, to turn off notifications and to be very selective of what you let into your space. I love, love, love that. I think that is such wise words. And then you were talking just at the very end of your helpful, um, processes that you think young people could do, including going in and looking at a business or an organization, and there's always room for improvement. Um,
Hmm.
the tool that I use with all of my executive career coaching clients after the core values is what I call the Ikigai playbook. So Ikigai is a Japanese term, if you're not familiar with it, for our listeners, and it means your reason for being. So
Hmm.
what are you good at? What are you quite gifted at doing? What are you passionate about? I think that's what you were alluding to. How
Hmm.
your work, your play. What does the world need? You were talking about that. What are the trends that young people can spot? And then what can they be well paid for? And it doesn't have to be necessarily just monetary pay. It could be um, learning and building skills. When I was a younger person, uh, my dear mentor Charlie Lamson said, "Don't worry about the money. Worry about what can you learn the most from
Hmm.
whole
Right.
company, etc. And then don't overstay. Go on and then learn new skills and new things
Hmm.
that climbing that mountain of skills and experiences so that you create greater value in the
Yes,
work, create greater
absolutely.
value, you enhance your compensation. So that ikigai, I think, is a tool that, and I can put it in the show notes. I love sending out that playbook to other people. What other things do you think would help young folks?
I think a lot of things are because there's so many youth, they spend so much time on devices and they're not interacting with community. They're not interacting with their family, they're not interacting with the community in their neighborhood, they're not interacting in a church community or or anything like that. So there's this sense of loneliness where they just don't know how to interact. They don't know how to communicate and socialize with one another. We've got, uh, in fact, in some cases, the social media, could be extremely brutal if you look at some of those things and allow people to tell you, you're ugly or you're this or you're that. I mean, it can really cause some emotions that are so destructive. Um, being able to turn that noise off and look in the mirror and say, this is who I am. I could listen to what others have to say, but I never did. I always said, this is who I am. I know who I am. I did inventory of myself. Not that I made all the right decisions all the time, but I really, really, truly um, uh, took inventory of myself. I had trauma in my life at one point in time that I needed to heal over and had to go to counseling. And it took a while, but that now becomes old news, old history. And in fact, it's almost like that's just another story or another chapter in my book of life. Think of your life as a book. You get to write your own chapters. Don't give anyone else the pen to write in your book. You are the one that writes your book. And if you don't like that story, change the story so that the book comes out the way you want it to. You can always change the story, change your direction, change your mind. I think, I also tell young people, you're young. You have the space and the time to make mistakes. We older people, we already made ours. You have a right to make mistakes. Try different things. I push entrepreneurship. Do you have an idea? So why aren't you doing something about it? Well, I don't know what to do. There's resources out there that tells you how to start, where to get the money to get started, how to hire people. There are other people out there that can be part of your team to make you successful in your entrepreneurial idea. But don't just sit on something and that was your purpose for even being on earth and you miss it because you listen to that noise coming from those devices. You listen to bad counsel. You listen to others who haven't reimagined their own lives. They're just complaining all the time about where they failed 20 years ago. 20, you just wasted 20 years? Do you know you can't get that back? I'm sorry, I'm preaching now.
So I love your passion. I truly do. And let's come back to the entrepreneurial uh, idea that you shared. I think in the era of generative AI,
Hmm.
helping people learn how to identify a problem and come up with a solution
Right.
and be able to monetize that and reduce
Hmm.
risk like all good entrepreneurs do. I think that is one of the most important things. But we have a question from Rochelle Hemingway.
Hmm.
First time this has come up on my radio show, so I'm excited. Thank you, Rebel, our producer, for reposting this. And the question is, do you think the lack of community and real human connection is one of the biggest issues? And how can we start rebuilding that in modern life? Thoughts, Angela?
I do believe community. The one thing that I love about indigenous communities, everybody is in the family. Every member is in the family. And not only in the family, we care about them as if they're your immediate family. We care about the elders. We care about those that might have disabilities. We care about those that are struggling. We care. And we not only just care and say, oh, I'm so sorry. We put our energy, our time, our thoughts, and even our finances into that community so that they are able to rise up from where they are and be all that they can be. Because we feel that in a community, if one has fallen, we are there to help them up, not picking yourself up by your own bootstraps, but we help lift them up so they can then be able to walk and carry themselves. We don't just sit there and complain. We don't sit there and point fingers. We are involved. We care about the community. We care about the earth. We care about the animals. We care about even the bees. We care about everything that surrounds us. We want fresh water. We want great salmon coming out of Alaska because the water hasn't been poisoned. So that's what community, we have community, and community is there to tell stories to the youth, to say, you know what I did when I was young, and I made this mistake, and I made this decision, and this was the consequences. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to make that same mistake, not because I don't think you're strong enough. I just want you to have that story in your life so you don't have to go and walk that path and become the story. Let me
Yeah.
tell you my story, sharing those stories. Elderly people, stop being ashamed of your journey. Tell your stories to the youth. No, you were not perfect. No, you didn't do everything right. Yes, you made bad decisions. Yes, there were consequences. And share it so that they're not out there wandering around trying things and doing things and making bad decisions because they don't know what the real consequences are. Tell them your story. You don't have to be ashamed.
Yeah, I love that. You know, one of the communities that I joined 2 years ago and I re-upped again this year is Laura Storm's Regenerators, the regenerative
Mhm.
journey. Um, and I sent you a podcast over the weekend. Andrew Huberman was interviewing Dr. Haidt, who apparently
Mhm.
at NYU is one of the top um, researchers and thought leaders in smartphone use and technology and social media and its negative impacts on young people. And one
Mhm.
of the prescriptions is go out and play. So,
Yes.
um, Rochelle, I think we need to help as parents get our kids off the screens and out into nature and playing. And
Mhm.
the process of doing what they love, they're going to shine, they're going to be their best selves, and they're going to meet other people that are doing something that they love, be it bike riding or foraging
Right.
or
Right.
cooking, crafting or skiing or sailing, whatever lights people up. And then when people that are lit up with something that they are passionate about, they bring their best selves. And I think then conversations like what we're having are more
Mhm.
easily had.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think what I kind of even feel sorry for the younger generation because we had fun going outside. We had fun playing with our friends in the communities and picnics and stuff. I think they're missing out uh, and not having the fun that we had as children. I mean, we were out playing from the time we got up until we always had to come in when the street lights came on. That's when we had to come in. But we interacted with other friends our age, other peers, and it was a friendship almost like family.
Yeah.
And you can't develop that from a distant screen. It's just not the same
So,
as
Angela,
just
I
interacting.
appreciate uh, you so much. I'm so sorry to cut you off yet again, but we need to wind down. Rebel's giving me
Mhm.
the 2-minute warning. Um,
Right.
how can people find out about you?
Oh, well, I'm on Talk 4 TV also,
Yeah.
and just look up A Sharpe, ASHARPE, Outlook, OUTLOOK, and you can catch my show every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And you can also catch the show on K4HD and go out to my website is www.asharpeoutlook.com and subscribe to catch all of the programming that we have. I talk over various topics,
You
and
do.
so that's
Very
how to
excited.
reach me. Yeah,
I love it. Thank you so much. And I'll
thank
put
you.
in the show notes as well. So
Hmm.
for our next port of call, friends, our theme next Monday is Lessons That Travel Home. And my guest will be Mike Shodroff, one of my best regenerative life and career coaching clients ever. We're going to be discussing his personal and professional transformation from being a private school teacher and sustainability advocate to founding and being the executive director of the Ripple Center, which is a nonprofit fellowship helping youths 18 to 24 launch their own regenerative, socially conscious ventures. So going back to the entrepreneurial idea that Angela and I were just discussing. So please join us for episode 11, Lessons That Travel Home, next Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. Central European time on k4hd.com and your favorite podcast platform. So thank you so much for investing your valuable time with us. On behalf of Angela Sharpe, our producer, Rebel Medler, and our entire Talk4 Media team, please stay healthy. Please stay safe. We need you. Consider reviewing your notes if you took any and applying just one idea, just one today. Thank you for joining us and hope to see you next week. We're better together.
Thank you for listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave on K4HD Radio. We invite you to give yourself grace and embrace the messy middle. See you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, you got this.